Today's guest is Mr. JD Vance. JD Vance, thanks for coming in today, man.
Yeah, man. It's good to be here.
I really appreciate it.
This is so wild. That freeze frame of Theo is wild. Once upon a time, 20 years ago, when I did stand-up comedy, I kind of knew Theo-ish. And then in the last few years, when I woke up and came out of the theater into the world, I was like, oh, Theo, you're famous. That's amazing. You have arrived. So excellent job, Theo. You're just a good guy, funny. I love watching Theo, and it's really fun to see good people succeed. I feel like I'm in an alternate universe right now. This is too much fun. I'm so excited to watch this interview with JD Vance. JD is so personable and likable and down to earth and smart. Like many people, I didn't know who JD Vance was until Donald Trump appointed him as his running mate. And the more I see this guy, the more I like him. How can you not like this guy? Let me know. Do you love JD Vance? You think he's a good pick? I think he's an excellent pick. The more that I get to know him, I think he would make an excellent vice president. Weigh in. Do you think that Tim Walz is going to take Theo up on his offer and do this podcast? Do you think Kamala is going to? The Trump interview was amazing. I know Theo was really nervous, but it was so good. And I really love the recap that Theo did. That was so funny because it must have just been so surreal to be around Secret Service and all the things. Check out what he says about the recap of meeting Donald Trump and that whole experience.
With the attempts that they've had on Trump's life and safety, how much of a concern has that been for you? Like, it's like, because if I'm standing next to a guy and they're shooting at him, I'm next to him.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, I try not to think about it, man, because
really.
Yeah, it's one of these things you can't control. And if you're going to do this job, like, you got to go out and talk to a lot of people, and you got to go try to win, right? I mean,
right.
Like, I fundamentally believe that we're trying to win to help the country. So either you either do it or you don't do it. And if you do it, you just kind of accept it. I mean, I don't think there's, I don't know, maybe this is just me rationalizing it. I don't feel like there's that big of a target on my back, but who the hell knows?
They're just so brave, and you have to be. And that's the other thing that I love about them in particular, because you witness people being resilient and brave in real time. I mean, it's really incredible.
Did you have to ask your wife about that? Like, say, hey, like, did she have to weigh in? Because that's a little, because I'm trying to think of other jobs where you get shot at, really. Military, domestic violence, I guess, and then politician.
I mean, normally politicians don't get shot at that much, but apparently
it's coming back.
Apparently it's coming back, man. That's not like a good thing to come back to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. You just kind of accept it as bad as it is. I mean, I want us to get away from it, right, as a country, but as an individual candidate, I think you just have to kind of accept it. I mean, I'll tell you. But
I guess if you're going into battle, you're going into battle.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. You just got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
But again, I'm a person of faith. I don't talk about it that much. I don't wear it on my sleeve. I always sort of mistrust people who wear it too much on their sleeve. But I feel like, if God wants me to be vice president, I'll be vice president. If not, then I won't.
Yeah.
You just got to work your ass off and let the chips fall where they may.
Why is it so bad? Like, what do you know a lot about the fentanyl crisis?
I mean, I know a fair amount about it. I've worried about it for a long time. I've worked on bills related to it. I mean, there are two basic issues, right? And it's like, any business, there's a manufacturer, there's a wholesaler, and then there's the retail, right? And with fentanyl, it's not, you can't like make fentanyl in a trailer in somebody's basement. Right, it's not like meth. It takes a really complicated, pretty sophisticated pharmaceutical process. So we know that a lot of it, maybe even most of it, the Chinese are making, meaning Chinese companies, not like necessarily the Chinese government, but they sure as hell know about it. And then they bring it in primarily through the southern border. And
that's why many of us believe that we're already in war, because they're killing our people with these drugs. It's absolutely awful. These are manufactured drugs deliberately made to hurt people.
And the Mexican drug cartels are like the wholesalers, right? Of the Chinese pharma's the manufacturer, the drug cartels are bringing it wholesale style, and then it makes it in the street level.
Wow.
And I mean, it's really crazy, man. Like I was talking to a DEA agent about this a couple years ago, and I think this was in 2022. He was like, look, a few years ago, the cartels were making less than $1 billion a year. And he's like, in 22, 23, we think they'll make $14 billion a year.
Wow.
So like an explosion of drug trafficking in this country. And yeah, you hear about stories, and I don't think it happens that much, thank God, but somebody smokes a joint, it's laced with fentanyl, they go into a coma.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I have 7 friends I have 7 friends, and not even just like estranged people, you know, like, but not all best friends.
Sure.
But I have 7 friends that overdosed and died from fentanyl.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's me.
Right. And I think you got to go to it at the heart.
Mm-hmm.
And something, you know, Trump did towards the end of his administration doesn't get a whole lot of headlines. Obviously, I'm biased. I think it should get headlines. Is he was using economic leverage to try to convince the Chinese to crack down on fentanyl manufacturing. Because if you get it at the source, right, that's, I think, really the way to address it.
Oh, there's fentanyl in half the bookshelves they make over there, dude. You put a fucking half a set of dictionaries, and that bitch will give way. You know, I've seen.
I mean, I absolutely believe that. Oh man, it's
true though. I bought a scooter for my daughter for Christmas last year, and it said, "This may cause cancer. Made in China." I was like, what? Why is a scooter causing cancer? What is happening? What is in the scooter? So I got rid of it. I didn't even want to sell it or give it to another kid. Why am I going to give them the cancer scooter? Why? So I threw it in the dumpster. I mean, what is going on? Cancer scooters? Please, no more cancer scooters.
After the drug cartels, the other thing people don't realize about the cartels, man, is one, we're talking about some very dark and dangerous people.
Yeah.
Like, this is not some guy who's like dealing, you know, selling joints on a college campus. These are like, they're doing sex trafficking. They're getting 11, 10-year-old girls involved in the sex trade.
Yeah, they're like
very evil people.
Dictator type of
just absolutely vile.
And see, that's the saddest part about all of this is the kids that are getting harmed because of this. I was just reading on the Nextdoor app, there was a, missing child picture. And then a couple, like not even an hour later, somebody goes, I think I saw her, but she was running through the alley and I couldn't like get to her fast enough. She was wearing a raincoat and she looked like she had bruises all over. And she said she looked like she was on drugs and she had no clothes on. And she said she was about 10 years old. And so of course she called the police and all the things. But this is what we're worried about. And this is what has to stop. And Donald Trump and JD Vance have a real plan to stop it. Because if Kamala did have a plan to stop it, then why hasn't she stopped it? Why hasn't her and Joe Biden stopped it? Why has it become a bigger problem during their administration than it ever has been, ever? I didn't even know what fentanyl was a few years ago. Most people didn't. It has like jumped on the scene in the last few years. And some people get addicted to it and it ruins their life. And some people just drop dead like that. My daughter will try to pick up trash off the ground to just be a good Samaritan. And I'm like, don't touch it, because I don't know who was touching it. I don't know what's going on. You got to have like a little grabber to do that. You can't even be a good Samaritan anymore. Don't touch anything.
And it's like, why are we making it easier for this like massive criminal organizations to get richer and richer and richer? Like, we should be trying to make them poor. And I mean, help people who actually need it.
Well, it's obviously one of the biggest enemies. That's right. It's like, if there were an enemy that were killing, if there were somebody shooting into your country every day and killing people, at a certain point you go over there, or you send your military there, or do something to say, hey,
that's right,
you're not going to be, we're not going to let you do this anymore.
Yeah,
that's basically what's happening.
That's right. I mean, can you imagine if Mexico sent gunmen across the border and killed 70,000 Americans a year, because that's about what dies from fentanyl, we would be in a major war, right? Well, we just absolutely would be the case. So the other thing that's crazy about this is, so these cartels, and you see this graphic up, it's pretty interesting there, but the cartels are going to start to destabilize the country of Mexico. Like, do you know the name Pablo Escobar?
Yeah, dude.
Okay, so like the Colombian cartels in the 70s were as powerful as like the Colombian government, right?
Wow.
It was a narco state. You don't want that to happen at like right at the American southern border, where the drug cartels have more power than the Mexican government.
Yeah.
That's just going to be chaotic. It's going to be basically a warlike atmosphere on our southern border. That's bad news.
Well, it's bad news, but it'd be great to figure out a way that to shut it down. I mean, it just feels like.
And actually, I just saw a news story break today that said that's what's happening right now. They're like now attacking Border Patrol. This is really, it's not safe. It's not good. It's not cute. And just because Kamala has a cute pantsuit and her wardrobe and stylist, put her in her beige sand matching the border outfit, that doesn't actually help what's happening at the border. It doesn't. And why do you think Border Patrol is endorsing Donald Trump? If they loved what Kamala's doing and they felt she was the best for the safety of Americans, don't you think that they would want to endorse her? They don't, because she's not. That's my opinion. It's my opinion. I'm tired of seeing people overdosing right before my eyes everywhere I go. Let's not make that normal anymore. We're normalizing that. I hear sirens right now.
It's like, yeah, if that many people are dying each year, if it were actual people shooting at these people, we would send people there in a heartbeat.
Right. I mean, and I think that's what we have to. I think not that we have to send people to Mexico, but I think that we actually have to have a military response at the southern border.
100%.
Because these are such vicious people. And I think local law enforcement, they're telling us they're overwhelmed by some of these guys. Mm-hmm. And we've got to be willing to send our best people, our best fighters to get control of the southern border.
I have mentioned this in many videos now, but I've called the police numerous times because of things that I've seen, because of overdoses, because of, things that I hear in the night, gunshots, all sorts of things. And I had a long talk with a police officer. And this police officer said they have meetings about this every single day. But because of the whole defund the police, and because there's been such an attack on the police under this administration, making it seem like they're bad. Sure, there's bad people in anything, but the vast majority of police officers are here to serve and protect and to help people. And she said, because so many people have quit the force, and because there are so many criminals, and in a lot of cases, we can't even do anything because we don't know who these people are. They're undocumented, things like that. It's a very dangerous situation. And she said that there is a concern that they could outnumber them. This isn't funny.
The most important issue confronting the country, because look, I mean, how do you even measure the human cost of 70,000 people, many of them in the prime of their life,
and the ripple effect of it too, in their families,
the orphans, the parents that are heartbroken? I mean, how many kids are like, this is my story, right? That's why my grandmother raised me, is because my mom struggled with addiction. Luckily, my mom got clean. You've got hundreds of thousands of children who are being raised by their grandparents or their aunts and uncles. Like, that is an unspeakable human tragedy, man.
Especially when we can do better.
Like, we could do so much better, and we're failing right now. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here. One of the reasons why I'm running.
Yeah.
I'll link this entire video below. Theo, you're amazing. Thank you for bringing some light to the world with heavy topics. Thank you for having an interview like this. JD Vance, thank you for being so relatable and honest, and also having real solutions to help people that are being harmed by these horrible policies, this horrible open border. Thank you for supporting police and military and all of the Border Patrol. Let me know if you think that Trump will make the border safer and stop this fentanyl infiltration. It's really a genocide. Please do subscribe. The more of us talking about these things, the better. we can make a positive change, and a positive change does need to happen. As much as Kamala likes to pretend like she's brand new, she's not brand new. She's not brand new. And Trump was in office and it was better then. And it's going to be even better now because he understands more and he understands how to fix the problems more. And he's got really good people on his team. Let me know, do you like JD Vance? I'm all about this.
At what point do people lose the opportunity to be here? It seemed like if you killed 500,000 people, you wouldn't be able to hang out anymore.
Or maybe at least you should have a criminal investigation.
Yeah.
Right. I worry. Okay. So America has a terrible obesity problem. Okay. And I'm not a doctor. I'm not telling, if your doctor tells you to take Ozempic, follow your doctor's advice, not, what you're hearing from me on a podcast.
Thick, I don't mind it a little,
What I worry about is, okay, you create a problem and then you medicate to solve the problem instead of maybe solving the underlying problem, right?
Exactly. That is exactly. And I've mentioned this many times now, but that's exactly what narcissists do. They create a problem and then they have a solution to solve the problem. My whole thing is, why not just don't have the problem to begin with, especially when it's something that it doesn't need to be, like this opioid epidemic. Don't overprescribe people something that they don't, that that they could get dependent on, and overprescribe them so that they can get addicted. I mean, that's a real problem. And that is something Trump addressed. Everybody should be on board with that. That is not something that should be a Democrat, Republican issue. That's everybody's issue. And if you just look out the door, you see these zombie people everywhere on fentanyl. But that's the gateway. But really, I think the gateway is the candy and the horrible food. And it's awful. I've already warned my daughter, I'm not going to allow her to have these candies that RFK Jr. has talked about that are illegal in Europe. That, I think, is the real gateway drug, is the super artificial, chemically induced candies. It's not good. Eliminate that, will eliminate some of the sicknesses and diseases, instead of here's the candy and then you get the disease and then we have more drugs for the thing that we just created. I mean, that's terrible. And then that goes into big government too. I mean, that's what I feel Kamala is doing with a lot of this stuff. It's like, let's create this open border, let's harm a lot of people, and then let's pretend like we're trying to fix it, and then it's Donald Trump's fault because of this bipartisan deal that was not even good for the border anyhow. It's a lot of smoke and mirrors. A lot of these things don't need to be a problem to begin with. When there's real solutions, some people ignore them. That's maddening.
Why don't we try to understand why it is that we have a terrible obesity epidemic rather than just giving people another pill to pop?
Well, it's also, we get used to that then after a while, and then it's hard to put the toothpaste back in the tube.
That's exactly right.
That's one of the tough,
that's one of the,
and that's more of a kind of a bigger look at that. Yeah, it's like, how much personal responsibility? It's like, that's something I struggle with sometimes. My brother and I talk about this sometimes, people have problems, and specifically even thinking about the OxyContin thing, they created a medicine that was so strong that even your ability, your God-given ability to be able to battle against it, you'd be in AA rooms and you'd see people that came in from opioid, and it was something different than alcoholism.
That's exactly right.
It wasn't alcohol. It was addiction, but it was something different. It was
that's right.
These people, it's zombied these people.
That is exactly what it is, Theo. You are 100% spot on. I call them balloon people. I see them on the street and they're the balloon, those wavy people that you see at car dealerships and stuff. That's what they've turned into. And it's so sad. And then some of them will be stuck in this crazy position and stuff. This is some weird demonic stuff. Nobody should be on this stuff. But once they're on it, they're hooked. And then you can also die. It's not just bad choice and move on. No, this ruins people's life. This is ruining people's lives big time.
like then they created something that was so powerful it kind of exceeded our natural ability to be able to fight against it, right?
Yes.
So at that point, personal responsibility kind of isn't, it's still there, but it's not exactly fair because you're allowing a company to create something that you can't naturally compete against.
Exactly. And that's the thing about this fentanyl stuff is that it can either kill you on the spot or you're just addicted for life because the sickness that people are experiencing with it is like death. I just saw a thing on a 60-year-old lady who had never done drugs at all. And then she had some kind of surgery. And so she got on the opioids. And then, of course, that prescription ran out and she was getting sick just coming off of that. And then somebody gave her some fentanyl. It's over. She's addicted, like 100%. Never done drugs in her life. At 60 years old, now she's a drug addict. I mean, it's really sad.
It turns you into a zombie, man.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean. And it's like one thing to sort of take a pill so your pain goes away, or you take a pill because, you know, you got a lung infection, the lung infection goes away, or like whatever. When something can so fundamentally transform your personality and your sense of, you know, ambition and reward, like what are you
It's
going
not a
after?
medicine, then.
It's
not a medicine.
It's very, very weird.
And that's why so many people say, oh, RFK Jr. is a quack and he's an idiot. I've, from the beginning, been on board with him when it comes to this health stuff and big pharma. It's really bad. And again, everyone should be on board with this. This is scary stuff. That's an attack. It's like a sneaky, it's really like, what is it? Chemical warfare. It's horrible.
Well, and I recognize you probably have, of your millions of listeners, some people love Trump and some people hate him. But the thing that Trump really changed about DC is that he was not beholden to the moneyed interess.
Oh, well, that's one thing that I also like about Bobby Kennedy. That I mean, I've known Bobby for years.
Kennedy.
Bobby's been a friend of mine for years. I knew him before I thought he was going to do politics.
Yeah, he's a good dude, man. I like Bobby.
He used to hold meetings at his house on Tuesdays, and we would go to him.
Yeah,
in his backyard, dude. And one of his dogs always was slobbering stuff on me. It was a huge dog. It might not even have been a dog because he has a lot of animals.
What would it have been then?
I don't know, dude. But he's had a lot of animals over the years.
And Bobby.
And he can afford probably.
What was
a big
this
animal.
maybe dog that was slobbering all over Theo?
But he doesn't need anything else. He's got a great name. He's got a cool wife. He's always cared about just making people healthy. Is he wrong sometimes on things? Sure, he probably is, just like anybody else.
Everybody's
but just raise their hand and ask questions. Like,
absolutely.
That's one thing that I just love about him, that he's not beholden to any of these people, you know.
The thing that I hate about politics and just media culture in this country right now, man, is people are so afraid of saying anything that's unconventional. They're afraid of thinking thoughts that you're not allowed to think.
Yes, critical thinking. Let's bring critical thinking back. It's okay to ask questions and to have curiosity. When we shut that down and we shut down freedom of speech, we're really in trouble.
Like the biggest ideas come from people who just follow the truth, right? And yeah, sometimes they're going to be wrong. Sometimes they're not going to get everything right. But we've got to stop punishing people like Bobby Kennedy for saying, well, maybe
hey, what about
this
that?
Doesn't work. Yeah, hey, what about that? Exactly. Yeah. Like that, hey, what about that is something we have to preserve. This is, so I'm going to sound like an old man, but this is what I think is really jacked up about social media is, okay, we're all social animals, right? We're all influenced by people around us.
Oh, yeah.
But look, 30 years ago, an opinion, it would take it many, many days before an opinion became the accepted conventional wisdom. You know, you'd have to be repeated in one newspaper, then repeated in another newspaper, and people would talk about it. Now you can have something happen on social media, it's viral, and 10 minutes later, you've got like the social media feeding frenzy that says, well, here's this thing that I came up with 10 minutes ago. And if you don't agree with that thing I came up with 10 minutes ago, then there's going to be a feeding frenzy attacking you, attacking your family, finding out where you worked and trying to attack your employer for keeping you in a job. Like that is a really jacked up thing to take the normal human social impulse to want to be liked and to, you know, want to make friends and to put it all on the internet where it operates at like the speed of light. I think there's something very deranged about that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and it's also it's like are you a repeater or are you a thinker? Like
Yes.
that's the thing. It's like we get so preoccupied now and so occupied so quickly that we don't even put it through our own filter.
That's exactly right.
And it's like, and then our filter starts to not even be a filter anymore because it's like, well, nobody's using me. I'm just a pathway now.
Yeah.
And that's what starts to happen. That's how we all start to become desensitized to everything.
And we just become repeaters, right?
Right.
That's exactly what social media does, is it just turns us all into repeaters. I like that Bobby Kennedy is sort of willing to say, no. I'm actually going to think for myself.
Yeah.
Yes, independent thinkers, free thinkers. We have to be allowed to do that. And we have to be allowed to process things. We have to be allowed to ask questions and make up our minds and change our minds and evolve. Otherwise, what are we doing? But right now, it seems like you're vilified if you just ask a question. If you're questioning the authority, if you're questioning Big Pharma, if you're questioning anything, you can be vilified. I mean, people dressing up for Halloween, I've been seeing, moms and daughters, and it's so cute. Let's dress up like we're killing each other. And I don't personally like that. I'm like, okay, well, that's up to you, but I'm not going to do that. And then they're like, well, then you're this and you're that, then you're terrible. I'm like, why do I have to be terrible? Because I don't want to do that weird thing. I would rather dress up as something fun and cheerful to like ward off evil spirits. I don't want to join the evil, but that's my prerogative. And I'm allowed to do that. But in this society, it's like you're supposed to follow in line with what everybody else is doing. Otherwise, you're vilified, even if what they're doing seems to be kind of evil. It's just strange. Let's make America healthy again. I love that Bobby Kennedy has joined the MAGA movement. Do you guys love it? I love it. Oh, let's look at this real quick. This is the betting. People play some money on this. Who will win the presidential election? These are people putting money down. So it looks like Trump is in good shape there, but vote, vote, vote. If you find value in this video, subscribe, because this is our way to get information out. Very important information. Of course, Theo's doing just great on his own. He's got millions of followers and millions of views, but the more of us talking about this, the better, in our own way, in our own voice, with our own freedom of thought.
We're all saying, what time President Trump spent any like real time with my wife?
Did he flirt with her or not?
He didn't flirt with her. He was very sweet to her, gave her a big hug, told her she was beautiful. I mean, he's a very engaging guy.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's something the media doesn't tell people about him, but he's a very engaging guy, very easy to talk to. But it's so funny. Like, my wife is super diplomatic. And so he asks her, he's like, Usha, what do you think about your husband being involved in politics? And she's, oh, it's nice. I like, supporting him. He really cares about public service, loves the people of Ohio. Just gives a very diplomatic answer. And then he kind of chuckles and says, yeah, my wife hates it too.
See, and then the mainstream media will take that and go, see, Melania hates it. She hates it. Trump admitted. They don't understand nuance. It's a joke. It's a joke. It's funny. There are challenges, of course, to be the first lady, but it's like Trump is very, very funny.
It just like broke the ice perfectly. And then she could actually have a conversation with him, because she wasn't trying to like talk to the president. Then she was just talking to a guy at that point.
Yeah.
And he's got a very good way about him. And he breaks down those barriers.
Funny stuff, dude. At that Al Smith dinner the other night, that shit was good.
Yeah.
What if Tony Hinchcliffe helped him write that or not?
I don't know. It's a good question, but I'll tell you, a lot of the stuff he just comes up with himself. I mean, the line where he was talking about, white dudes for Kamala.
Oh yeah.
He was like, I forget exactly what he said, but something to the effect of, well, it's okay. Their wives and their wives' boyfriends are all voting for Trump.
That shit was pretty crazy, dude.
And like all good jokes, there's like an element of truth to it.
My best was that he rubbed on Lucky Chuck right there. Huh? Squeeze a couple bucks out of the fucking insurance companies right there.
See, he's hilarious. And then meanwhile, Kamala made a joke, I guess, the other day when somebody said, Jesus is Lord. She's like, you're at the wrong rally. Okay. It's like, that's funny to you, putting down somebody that is like at your rally who believes in God and Jesus? Why is that so funny? That's divisive. to like, point out somebody at your own rally and like make fun of them when they're there supporting you. I don't know.
Well, I can't believe that Facebook and Twitter, when it was owned, then they admitted to like leaving certain things off and stuff, and not facing any charges.
They admitted to censoring American citizens weeks before an election, right?
Well, we'll have to talk about that another time.
Yeah,
because we got to get into that.
If you'll have me back, I'll come back after we win and have a good conversation. But in my view, if you want to secure the border, have common sense economic policy, then Donald Trump is your man. And I gotta say, man, something about Kamala Harris, and I know a little bit about you, and I've read about some of your political views. And
we've invited her and Mr. Walls to come on. We would love it if they would.
Yeah, I'm sure you would. But like,
I hope they will.
But like Sean O'Brien, who's the head of the Teamsters, like one of the things that President Trump has sort of been known for is bringing more working class people into the Republican coalition, right? It's I think one of the reasons why he's been very successful politically. If you look at like where Kamala is on the big pharma stuff, or you look at where she is on the foreign conflict stuff, she's like very pro-war. Mm-hmm. Or if you look at where she is on things like how do we put tariffs on goods that are imported from China so that you don't have the Chinese undercutting the wages of American workers, right? Or like the illegal immigration thing, like, yeah, it's about fentanyl and drug trafficking, but when you bring in millions upon millions of illegal immigrants who are willing to work under the table, that undercuts the wages of American workers, right? So our own people get poorer. And I don't have anything against the illegal immigrants themselves. I have something against Kamala Harris, who lets these people come in, but I want our people to be able, black, white, brown, whatever. I just want our people to be able to work for a solid wage. That doesn't work when you have people coming in like this.
Well, some of it is we have to have personal responsibility too, as people running companies, to not hire.
I agree.
Those people as well. And so you have to enforce that side of it as well.
I agree. You got to do both sides of it. I think we got to make it harder to hire illegal labor. We also ought to make it harder for illegal labor to come into the country in the first place. I agree. Both sides of it have got to matter. But I think that's actually why we're doing so much better among working people, is because they recognize like, open borders are not good for me, right?
Oh,
fentanyl in my community is not
dude.
good for me. Like this stuff with pharma is not good for me. And so they have become more open to Donald Trump. And I think that's a very good thing, because I think, look, man, between Bobby Kennedy, me, obviously the president at the top of the ticket, I think we're going to have such a cool administration that's going to try to tackle the big things and not just govern along these bullshit slogans anymore. So, look, I hope that ends up being true, because I think we'll do a lot of good if we win.
Yep, I think so too. Absolutely, absolutely. Such a cool group of people who have the best intentions, but not just that. They don't just have these nice platitudes. They have actual policies that will support the things that they're saying, and it will work. It will work. These are people who know how to build things. What did you think of that interview? I'll link it below. Theo, that was awesome. JD Vance, that was fun. It was fun and happy. Thank you.